An unknown error has occurred.
I'm gonna switch to my page because I write everything down.
Same thing. Let me get my notes out.
What is this, episode 4?
This is episode 4, Rick.
Of
What?
the new,
Well, it's
the same
technically
mold.
it's the 4th episode of the new
Nonsense.
version of the old podcast that's on episode 33.
That's not bad.
This is episode 33. Yeah, this is their episode 33.
33 slash
of the
4.
Unknown Error podcast. And hi, I'm Martin Bennett, your host, and with me, as always, is Rick and Roddy.
What's up?
Alrighty, and yeah, so far I'm digging the new format.
Yeah.
Editing these has been fun, putting a new spin on it. And of course, I'll mention that we do have a Patreon. So if you're listening to this and you're not a patron, you can get it a week early. You can get everything we make a week early. It goes a week early, exclusive early access to anyone that helps support us. Just for $1, you get everything a week early before anyone else. Ain't that crazy?
Wow.
Wow. And then also for one of our other tiers, you get our special post-episode show, friendly banter, where we just talk about whatever we want.
Those are always the best gems.
And if you become a patron and we want to make a conversation between the audience and us. So with that, if you become a patron, you can ask us questions, personal questions, and that can kind of be our segment where it's like a one-on-one discussion with the audience. And it's like we get real personal and kind of can talk about whatever. But of course, if you like the things that we're talking about and the topics and the movies, the TV shows and whatnot, then make sure to leave a comment because we want to get to know you and want to know what you think of the stuff that we're watching and that we're doing. So yeah, that's all cool. So this week we're doing my pick. So I made you guys both watch Boondock Saints.
Yeah.
The Boondock Saints. And Roddy, that you'd never seen it.
Yeah, I heard all about it, and I was like, yeah, I'll watch it when I get the time. And then I never did, and then this was the time.
Yeah. And Rick, when was the first time you ever seen Saw?
That's a really good question. I think probably a little ways after it came out. Probably when I was like 14.
Mm-hmm.
So it came out like 1999, right?
No, 1999.
Yeah.
Of course, I will do my rundown of interesting factoids, as I like to do. So, the Boondock Saints came out in 1999. It's written and directed by Troy Duffy.
He's
it's
like
starring.
infamous.
Yes, he is. Mostly because of his style of filmmaking and just kind of the. I actually have some really interesting things here with the movie that I didn't even know until I was on the wiki page and just started reading for hours. It's starring Sean Patrick Flannery and Norman Reedus before he was Walking Dead fame. Before he got famous because of that show, and no one knew who he was except for this one movie.
Yeah, I feel like we should talk about that show at some point, but I don't want to.
I've actually never seen a single episode of Walking Dead. No, that's a lie.
You should
I think I've seen one episode, maybe.
watch the first season. Treat it like a miniseries.
Yeah, that's what I did. Basically do it like that. I watched the first season, the second one I gave up, and then just keep at the first.
Yeah, that's the only thing I really remember with Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who else is in it? Oh, Willem Dafoe's in it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm going to turn that off. Personally, in my opinion, one of his greatest roles ever.
Yeah, he's best part of that movie. He makes the movie.
He makes the movie.
Yeah.
He is he's amazing, crazy, and weird, and it's great. Other people that are in it is Billy Connolly.
Mm-hmm.
Makes his special appearance in the movie as one of the more interesting characters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If this was a single movie, because there is a sequel to this movie, if this was a single movie, that character, and we'll talk about it. Of course, the spoiler warning, obviously, because we're going to go into detail about the plot.
Yeah, and probably the second movie.
It's like,
And a little bit of the second movie. But yeah, in this movie, his character is super, there's nothing there. And in the second movie, they go into full detail. The entire movie is about his character. And then also good old David Della Rocco. He plays Rocco.
Right.
I enjoyed his scenes though.
I don't think I've seen him in anything else ever.
No.
Ever.
Nope.
He looked like he would be in that movie Showgirls. Did he? Or is that just
Yeah,
like the way
yeah.
he looks?
Yeah, he's just
It's
a
kind of, yeah.
sort of Italianish looking guy.
What else is there? 1999. It's about 108 minutes long. It was shot in Toronto, which is one of the coolest things.
This one was shot in Toronto?
Yeah, it was
Boondock.
mostly
Oh,
shot in
I didn't
Toronto.
know that. I thought it was the sequel that was only shot in Toronto.
No, it was shot in Toronto. Most of the any big exterior stuff is shot in Boston.
Because I think the only the one scene I actually really liked was like nearby the Henrys. Mm-hmm. I was like,
There's that.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
The scene where Rocco goes into the restaurant and shoots up the place. That's
Lakeview.
the Lakeview restaurant.
Oh no way!
Yeah.
I should recognize that.
Which as soon as you walk in, you're like, oh yeah, this is totally where they shot
They
it. That's
don't
the
even-
booth.
They don't even hide it when he's crossing
No.
the road. You see that you see this restaurant name.
I
Yeah.
think by that
And
point, I
it's-
had like too many what the F's
Well, it's
going on
kinda-
with it.
it's
Yeah,
cool,
when he's
'cause-
when he's crossing the street, you can immediately see which intersection it is, and you can see the streetcar rails and stuff. It's kind of funny.
But they sell it so much as Boston in the
They
first
do.
in the opening sequence. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm there.
Yeah, I think the courtroom scene at the very end was also shot in Boston, just because. Or no, it was shot here.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, okay.
That's Old City Hall. The
Oh,
interior.
right, that is Old City Hall. Yeah, because there's also at the very beginning there's a lot of scenes outside there. Right, yeah.
I'm doing a research project about this specific things.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Serious? Okay, that's cool.
It had bad theatrical release. I think it only made $40,000.
That's
And the budget was
than
$6
some.
million.
That's a
but
fucking flop.
50 million.
from Troy Duffy's words himself, he said Blockbuster saved us because it became a cult classic
Yeah.
with home video.
Yeah.
And then some fun facts, which is with casting and funding. Originally, Duffy wanted Steven Dorff and Mark Wahlberg to play the brothers.
Oh, Stephen Dorff.
Steven Dorff
Do you
is
remember
the
Blade? Do you know
Yeah.
the guy, the villain in Blade, the first one?
Maybe.
he's also the voice of Chucky.
What? Did not know that.
Yeah, he's the voice of Chucky. He was also in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Wait, is Steven Dorff, was he the one in Blade? Or I'm just thinking of something entirely
I
different?
don't know. I barely remember Blade. He also wanted Billy Connolly in the movie originally. He wanted Kenneth Branagh to play Smecker,
I feel like
Willem
that would,
Dafoe's role, which is kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah.
He also had Brendan Fraser, Ian McGregor.
there were a whole bunch of cast lined up for this.
Well,
film.
it was because he originally was pitching it with to either Paramount or Miramax.
I think it was
That were
originally-
funding it originally, and so they had people that they were lined up with. Like he wanted Patrick Swayze as Smecker at one point, and they were trying to pitch him Stallone because they had a contract with him, and they also wanted people like Bill Murray, Mike Myers, Kevin Spacey, Robert De Niro in the movie, and nothing kept working out to eventually where they were so far behind in production in '97 that Duffy was able to keep his writer's fee, which was $300,000 that he got paid for writing the script, but then he had to reimburse his director's fee and the $700,000 advance to develop the project.
Oh my god.
Wait, on the Wikipedia, is this true? Like, it's Wikipedia, so I'm like, I'm like, there can't be, I don't know. But like, it said like no one got paid on the Boondock Saints.
I can imagine so.
I was like, not even the cast, not even
Yeah.
like the crew. Like,
I can
no one.
I can imagine so. But basically, then an independent studio named Franchise Pictures came to him, and then he picked the cast himself.
Right.
And he went to Flannery and Defoe and Remus, and said like, "Hey, do you want to be in this movie? It's not going to pay anything." And they were just like, "Sure." And that's how we have Boondock Saints.
That's amazing. Again, no wonder that's why they shot in Toronto. They're like, we have no money.
Wait, but
We'll shoot in Toronto.
That's it.
Basically.
Did you guys see the Overnight? The one that the documentary based on like the genesis of this film?
No, I actually
it?
have not seen that.
No.
It's like I found it more entertaining than the film itself, because it basically is a riches to rags story.
Yeah.
From the perspective, and like they talked about how like his personality like butted heads, and originally like when Troy Duffy got it was originally supposed to be like a $60 million budget. He would have final cut, he would have all this freedom, he would actually be able to with his band soundtrack the entire film.
Yeah.
But then like he butted heads with Harvey Weinstein, and then now that's how he had to go to like the franchise thing and everything like that, because he was like blacklisted. Even when they went to Cannes, no one would pick it up because of his relationship with Harvey Weinstein.
Well, yeah, because at the time, the Weinstein brothers were like the biggest wigs in all of Hollywood.
Yeah.
Disney owned them,
Yeah.
and they had made Pulp Fiction and tons of other fucking movies.
It's weird because this film was like right in there as like that sort of era of film, sort of like hyper violent, self-aware.
The 90s,
thing, you know?
the 90s were an era where basically it was sort of the 70s all over again, where studios were trying to pick up independent talent and try to.
This was his first script ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just in a bar or something, and then he managed to talk his way and get into an assistant to have it read it, and there was like a bidding war for it, and that's how I got the 300,000. Like, yeah, it was a really interesting watch to see it, because like the thing is, he ended up being like the villain in his own documentary, because it was his two friends that were originally his friends that were filming it, like kind of to be like, hey, this is the richest story, but then as soon as he lost the deal with Miramax, they're like, no. This is going to be an entirely different story of how, like, you have all this given to you, and because, like, he's perceived as an egomaniac, you get everything taken away.
Because you're a dick, you don't get to make
Because,
your
like,
movie.
there was things he would say in this is why while watching it, I was like, because you know how, like, when a writer's voice is in the writing?
Yeah.
So, like, there's things that were being said, I was like, is this who he is? Because, like, he would talk to them and be like, you guys deserve the money. You know you're working for free, but you won't get it. You deserve it, but you won't get it. But then he would backtrack and say, like, you don't deserve it. And then in the end, like, his friends, two of them had to, like, just, like, they don't talk anymore. And, like, it ends, because he promises all his friends, like, I'm going to get you all this investment. You're going to get all this money, so much future positions with me. And then the ending literally cuts to them back, all his friends now back at their regular day jobs. It was a really intense like documentary, because like it's hard to watch because he is a strong personality, because he's like smoking and saying how like I walked into the boardroom hungover in overalls and a bunch of guys in suits and they listen to what I have to say. I can manage anybody. And I was like, damn, it's Troy Duffy. And that's why like
Cold
that
confidence.
yeah, it comes across in the Boondock Saints, like
Right.
with like
It's like the weird opposite story of like Robert Rodriguez.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's filmmaker without a crew. Instead, it's a filmmaker with a crew that loses its crew.
He's infamous. Like I got so engrossed in his story because he went to like a film school to talk about it, like to his screenwriting class, and like they're trying to compliment like how perseverance, and then he took it offensive and started like just like saying shit to like every student in it, and everyone's just like quiet because like, all right, I can't say anything because it's gonna like
imagine.
he's just gonna attack me.
Jesus, so interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Well, it's funny to like think about that was the person in mind behind this movie, because this movie, I don't know, for me, the reason why I picked it is because I absolutely love it, mostly because it came after all those action movies from like the 80s and 90s, and it was trying to homage all of them with its own little story, and it is interesting because it's like it's funny, but then it has this like whole religious angle behind it.
Yeah.
But then it's got the mafia and all this stuff, and it just doesn't pull any punches wherever it wants to. Like if someone made this movie today, I mean, even this movie is not that old. It's coming up on 20 years old soon.
All right.
But I think if this movie was made today, people would be highly offended.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a lot of moments in this movie that are just like, this is a bunch of white people saying all this shit.
Oh no, yeah. Like I got like for me as I watched as I started watching this, I was like, oh, I'm not the audience for this. Like I was like, oh, I'm not that. First, I was like, it's like there's not that much women in this.
No,
No.
There's literally only 2 women in the whole
And then
movie.
the one time I was like, oh look, there's a person of color. Oh, that's not a good like role for this person of color at all.
What's great though is the second movie.
I disagree.
Because it's not a bad, because it's a bad portrayal of a woman in the movie.
The sequel?
Yeah.
Oh, I just think it's a bad movie.
I don't think it's that bad of a movie.
Hearing all this stuff about Troy Duffy, it's like that's sort of seems like a lesson in tact. Like one, you wouldn't get the Boondock Saints, but like what else?
He had to fight
like
for the money from the sales. It originally was part of his contract. Like the $50 million of the VHS, he didn't get initially because I don't know what the settlement he got, but he wasn't part of the deal. It was so all that money wasn't him, and he didn't have the rights to do the sequel. So he had to fight to get the rights to do the sequel. That's weird. So like literally, Boondock Saints is him and his baby, and I think he's having another movie called like The Blood. I don't know. It's about like a bunch of people trying to kill serial killers. So like I think that's another movie that might be coming up. But seeing how rocky his pre-production is, I'm just like, I don't know if that's getting made.
There was going to be a Boondock Saints 3 at one point. But
but now it might be a TV show.
But I can't. You're trying to talk about the female character in the second one, but I can't remember.
It's basically
that well.
basically in the so Willem Dafoe plays Smecker in this film, and he's the FBI agent that's trying to figure out who's doing all these murders. Like we'll talk about the plot in a second.
Wait, they got Willem Dafoe in the second one?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because of less budget and whatever, they still had all the exact same characters and actors, but then taking Willem Dafoe's place, not as the same character, but as a different person, was someone coming in because a bunch of murders start happening and they think that it's the Saints again. Right. So then it's this woman FBI agent who is kind of like this real bad, like kind of hard-nosed bitch character who is like, she's sort of Specker incarnate, except for that she's not gay for one thing, but she comes off as like seductive to all the men because she teams up with all the same cops, like the three of them, Greenlee and the other 2. She teams up with them again, and she's trying to figure out who these murderers are, while the 3 of them know that, like, could this be the Saints? Could this be the brothers? It can't be. Like, we helped them. We're included in their crimes. And so they're trying to lead her away while she's like, she was a student of Smecker. And so you can tell where that all came from. But then she's literally the only woman in the entire 2 films. Yeah. Which is really, really is telling.
Definitely.
But yeah, so I think it's like good to go through the plot because it's there's just so many solid moments, I think, in this movie. So basically the plot of the film is it's St. Patrick's Day in Boston. And 2 brothers who are fraternal twins, which you don't get immediately from the movie. They are twins.
Yeah.
But they sort of don't look like at all.
No.
I think if anything, when I first saw the movie, I thought they were brothers from another mother, or that they were step brothers, or maybe they were brothers, but you couldn't tell which one was older. I thought Flannery was always older, the older one out of the 2 of them.
Yeah.
But so it
sort of doesn't super bastard.
No, it really doesn't. It's just like they're brothers and they're always sticking with each other. So basically...
Telekinetic, what?
It's like the weird stuff. I want to talk about the weird stuff, but continue.
So basically, it's following these 2 brothers who... what happens is...
Who are Irish.
These 2 Irish brothers, yeah.
Not Irish actors, though.
Boston. Am I right?
Oh, I got it.
I don't actually know where Reedus is from.
But neither are Irish.
Flannery, I mean, his last name's Flannery. Well, they're not like Irish. They're American.
Yeah. I think that's that's the way to like, what's it called? Like buy believability into the character. Like really, because they're American Irish, so that's
Yeah. So the film is basically encapsulated by this whole idea of like, is it good to kill bad people?
Yeah, so vigilante justice.
Yeah, vigilante justice. Because there's one quote. There's a quote in the very beginning because it starts in a church and you see the two brothers go up and they take out their rosemarys and they kiss the feet of the statue of Jesus. And then the priest is saying the speech and he says the line. And it's, we fear evil men, but what we should fear is the indifference of good men. And that's kind of the whole tone of the film.
Okay, that line when I was like when you're saying like it's a pretty good interesting topic to explore, but then like as the movie went on,
and then as the movie goes on, you're like,
oh, it's not gonna.
As the movie goes on, you realize that there's no such thing as a good person in certain aspects.
It was
But then we are introduced to the brothers, and we see them at their job, which is one of my favorite moments in the whole movie. Is the meat packing plant. And that's there's two women in the movie.
Oh no, I was just like when that moment happened, I was like, oh, this is not for me.
It's a joke where they have to show this woman, and that woman has been in a number of things. She was in Glee.
She's in Glee, yeah, she is.
As the
I'm
coach.
happy she's in Glee and she's able to show that like she's an actress. She has skill.
Yeah, because I don't know her name, and I feel bad about that. But she normally plays butch characters. She's a taller woman. She's more stocky. But so she's in this she does a quick cameo in this movie where they have to show her. Oh, God. They have to train her, and then one of the brothers says rule of thumb, and then she says that rule of thumb was. It's saying back in the day of that a man could beat his wife as long as the stick was not wider than his thumb.
Yeah.
And then they make a joke saying, "Well, that can't hurt too much. It should be a rule of the wrist." And then then she kicks one of them in the nuts, and then the other one beats the shit out of her or punches her, and that's sort of you can now see the how the brothers relate and how they kind of interact with people. That they don't give two shits, and they're just willing to they don't care who pisses them off.
Yeah, for
whether
me,
it's a woman or not.
For me, I was just like, that's what I got. That's why I was like, I need to know more about this writer. And I was like, oh, this kind of humor makes a lot of sense.
It's very...
Because like for me, I was just like, this is a particular brand of humor.
It's a film. It is. It's a film bros before it was ingrained.
Wait, film bros?
Yeah, use that term for people who want to deal with like violent subjects. I mean, you see that in like film schools and stuff. You'll see like we're doing there's always like guns and like people are trying.
People trying to copy what they idolized of Tarantino
like
and other filmmakers, and basically like, oh well, if there's gonna be a conversation scene, they're gonna say like this witty, funny stuff, and then it just comes off as being an asshole.
Yeah, the whole time when I was watching this film, I was like, there's like I can see why it's a cult classic. Like genuinely, there's like moments that like I thought were like great, but then overall, I was just like I was either like there's moments I was just like what the like that, or I'm like, but why? Right. I had like so much reaction to that.
So then we kind of continue on through St. Patrick's Day, and the brothers go to their local bar with my favorite character in both movies is the stuttering bartender with Tourette's. Fuck ass, as they call him. I do like that there are characters in these films that they have like their particular thing and they become so memorable because of it. Like all the side characters are all like actually kind of interesting in their own weird aspect. Yeah. And it's like, because if you really look at the two brothers, it's that syndrome of like the main characters are actually kind of boring, while the side characters are kind of quirky and interesting. So it's like,
whoops.
So it's like
my turn.
The like the bartender with Tourette's who then can't understand, like he always mixes up phrases.
Yeah.
people in
Gets
glass
his point across.
people in glass houses always sink ships or something like that. And why don't you make like a leaf and get the fuck out? And then what happens is a couple of Russian mafia people come into the bar because I guess they're trying to buy him out. And then we don't really know what happens because it cuts away and then into an alleyway where we see the guys, the mafia guys, face down in the asphalt, dead. And we're introduced to the cop characters, and then eventually Willem Dafoe's character, Smecker, who's trying to figure out what happened here. And I love it. It's another one of the more interesting things of how Troy Duffy decided to do the kind of deconstruction of the crime scenes, where it's like Smecker playing it through his head, and he puts in his headphones and listens to music, and he kind of like maestros his way through it.
Yeah. Wait, when did CSI come out? When did CSI come out? Like last few? Because it felt like
I think.
Yeah, because I felt like it was like for me, like when one of the notes I made when I saw that, I was like, he would make a really interesting actual character in the show, Willem Dafoe. Like he would. Yeah. I feel like he would be able to pull his own show. Yeah. Like the same thing when you're saying about all the side characters. All the side characters had better like backstories and like motivation I found than like the main characters.
Like super fucking interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, like he has like a masculinity issue. It's like all this stuff. I know it's like very yeah. That's why I love like anytime Willem Dafoe was in it, like I felt like he was making it work. Yeah. Like he was making everything work.
He's just doing I don't even know where I would love to know where half of that stuff came from. Just because it's like, if that was all literally like Troy Duffy was like, no, you're going to put in headphones, you're going to act like this and stuff. Or it was like him being like, okay, well, it's this character and they worked out something together. Because it's such an interesting character, just like the weird isms of him that he, like, because he has to deal with like these three cop characters. One of them being, probably one of my favorite things is the guy that plays, what the fuck is his name?
The dumb guy?
We'll have to get the donuts.
Green.
Is it just green? No.
Greenlee.
Green.
I always forget the other two cops' names. The actor that plays him, his stage name, but his real name is Bob Marley. What? So he goes by his handle is he goes by comedian Bob Marley, so he doesn't get confused with people. But yeah, so like those three characters are just like Willem Dafoe's punching bags in this movie.
Yeah, they do it well.
And yeah, so he just deconstructs the scene and figures out, and eventually leads to the brothers who turn themselves in to the cops.
That was a good, like, for me, when I was like, just for plot wise, and like, that for me was unexpected. I was like, oh, that's different. Like, they could have dragged this on, but the fact that they went in, I was like, oh, this is different.
Yeah.
Like, there's little things that happened in this movie that weren't predictable that I appreciated. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, that was one of them.
Yeah, that they just turned themselves in because they're just like, oh, whatever, we were defending ourselves. Like, what can they really do?
We won't tell you exactly what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And then it then shows how it all happened and kind of weird superhuman feat of strength. And
that's what I want to talk. That's weird.
Like, well, because then what happens is
are they fucking angels?
Well, because what happens
because toilet seat?
The whole toilet.
That was great. Like when that happened, I wish it did more of that.
There's that, and then there's when they have like that weird simultaneous.
Because then what happens? Because then what happens? It's interesting because
that thing. Because
these characters
of water. Yeah.
Because these characters are just like they're very loyal to each other, and they have like the set of standards and code and whatever. But then they turn themselves in, and then Smecker interviews them and just asks them questions, and they're flopping between like 7 different languages. It's like
which was I don't know.
We're in it's like, where'd you learn all these languages? It's like our mother insisted. And they go from Spanish to Latin to Italian to French, and it's just like the weird quirks of the characters, which I kind of like. And then They stay because they don't want to get interviewed by reporters and they don't want their pictures taken.
But
they don't
like,
want
even with
to
the
just want to lay
language
low.
thing, yeah.
And then they stay at the precinct, and in the middle of the night, I believe it's a mix of the priest from the very beginning's lines and then some of Billy Connolly voiceover. Then it's raining and thundering out, and then water drips through the cracks and it drips onto both their heads, and they both wake up and just like in awe and as if God
As
is
if touched by God.
literally
And
being
that's-
touched by God and being told, I want you to seek my
to
vengeance,
continue this shit.
to seek
Which is
my
weird.
vengeance, and to go out there and kill whoever you find evil.
That's good First Testament God shit.
And that's
though.
the one. There's like a few shots in the film where I'm just like, they really wanted to have this like solid sort of thing. Because in terms of cinematography, the whole movie, I don't know what you guys think, but like cinematography when it works is because it works for the story, and I like the way that this film was shot.
Yeah, there were certain shootouts that were like, I think the most pretty one for me is the one in that pink room with like the sort of like
Oh
lights.
yeah, that.
Like even when
Oh,
they
in
were
the
entering the room and it was just three of them, like the way it shot that, I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah,
The
it's
strip club room.
Also
Yeah,
strange because most people have no idea that that's a thing.
yeah,
You know, so
yeah.
that you have to introduce the concept of the thing.
yeah.
And then like choreographic so that makes sense in a weird space like that as well. Yeah.
But
I
one of
agree,
the
they
one of the
did
shots I
really
was talking about is that when they like then start to get put on their stuff and they set up, and it does a profile shot of Norman Reedus, and he's sitting there and he's like really trying to look sexy, and it's like he's just like staring directly into the camera. He's just got this like side kind of thing going. He's just like he's pouty, and then it cuts to Flannery and he's not at all looking the same. It's like you can tell it's like we're doing like your hero shots right now. Specifically those shots where it's like, yeah, this is real serious shit right now. That sort of thing, which is really funny. But then
So the toilet scene is amazing though. Like the thing I found with this movie, I was always just, as I was watching it, I was just thinking of other movies that I liked more. Like
Right.
with the toilet scene, for some reason, I think it was a choice of music that they use. I started thinking of Run the Low Run.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge jumping off point for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was like, because the way it was filmed, the way that it was like hyped up with adrenaline, and you had to like lift it up, and like even like kind of was it shaky? I don't know. Like there's something that was about it that like
Well,
they were,
it
like,
was all
following him.
It was all in slow motion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there you go. And like the
But it's
jump.
gritty. It's gritty slow. Oh, and that is just what the fuck. You can jump off
a roof. And like,
four-story
I don't know when it
building.
was happening. I
Yeah.
was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I was like, is he gonna land on him? And then like, I guess that would break the fall. But like, he still pretty much hit pavement. And I was like, all right, it's gonna be that kind of movie again. Yeah.
Yeah.
The angels, damn it. The angels.
I basically like the whole,
Are
the
they?
whole time.
Did the sequel? Did they grow wings or something?
No,
They explain
they're-
that phenomenon.
They're probably just delusional.
Well, in the second one, there's a whole other thing to it. But in this one, it's just that they're like, yeah, no, this is what we gotta do now. And that's just their reasoning. And like,
Yeah.
there is a point where they go into like, where they're talking to Rocco later in the film. They're like, you know, these people and they're on the streets and they're, selling, 20 kilos of cocaine and getting busted, but then getting out the same day on bail.
Yeah,
And,
Rocco
like-
ends up giving them the motivation. Like Rocco, like I feel like
Well,
Rocco,
define-
Gives them targets.
yeah,
get
it was
some
just
targets.
weird to me because it was like they feel like as people like again like the whole line of the indifference is so cool, but I think the movie just becomes kind of like, all right, let's just do what's kind of cool, and like when it does what's cool, it's cool.
Yeah.
But then when like you think about it, you're like, wait, what?
I know.
Like,
Well, they have that scene where they're like, we know this is the thing that we need to do. We don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And then he's like, we can do this.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you guys are talking about. And they're kind of like, eh. Actually, he ends up basically,
Rocco.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because they
Spoiler.
know that they are one to kill bad people, but they're like,
Who are that people? Where to find bad people?
we'll just whenever we run into it and we'll do it. And then the NCA are like, I know a lot of bad people.
Yeah,
Which
it's-
Rocco,
He's a bad person.
he is a bad person.
He's
He's
a
a very,
terrible
very
person.
bad person. And the people that he is with are all very bad people. But one of the funniest things when I remember first seeing this movie was fucking Ron Jeremy.
Oh,
playing Lorenzo.
Did he speak? No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
it basically
he has
just
lines.
repeats
I just
things.
looked at him and was like, what the?
Yeah. Ron Jeremy's in this movie as a character is so funny. And then because that is one scene that I feel is like, I understand it's basically a scene where Rocco brings the Italian mob boss a sandwich and we see him on the phone and we get introduced to his character. It doesn't really set him up as like, this is the film's main bad guy.
No. The thing is, the way
it's not
It did a
like
Suicide Squad. Like when I was watching it, like with the exposition, when it's it freeze frames and just like typed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I was like,
it
I was
does,
like,
yeah.
oh, so this is where Suicide got the idea. I was like,
Yeah, I do feel like that was. I mean, I feel like it was fresh, but also that happened a lot in movies of that era.
Yeah, that's true. It was either
Still- it still
that. It was either that, or it was
Like, 'cause that's the
freeze
only
frame
way-
and then voiceover.
Yeah.
that's the only way you knew that they were bad, though. Like the people that they were targeting, that's the only way you knew that they were bad, because they
Yeah.
freeze framed it, told you they were bad, and you're like, okay.
I think the only thing that sort of gives it away is that with everybody else, it freezes and then says it, but there's still music or other things playing. But then for I just forget how to pronounce Yakavetta, his is the music and sound stop, and then it just silence during his. So it's supposed to be like, and this is a bad guy. All right, and then it comes back, and then Rocco has to tell him a joke, and he tells him a really racist joke. I think it's just supposed to show Rocco's involvement with the mob or with mafia, and kind of how he's a lowlife in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
But it still feels to me like always like I like the scene, but I always feel like it's
super uncomfortable scene.
yeah, it's also very out of place. Most of this film rarely has any scenes where it's not the main characters. It's either scene with Willem Dafoe or scene with the brothers.
yeah. What you guys thought of like the way it played with time? Like, did you think it served the movie, or do you think it was kind of more a stylistic choice?
Both, though.
Yeah, because
That's definitely part of what makes that movie that movie.
Because then
I
one of
guess,
the scene, what happens after that scene is what you're talking about, which is, I love that they go to an Irish armory.
Right?
It's
underground,
just underground, just like arms dealer who gives them access to literally anything.
What's
The rope. The rope is such a funny thing. It's kind of just like, let's just call to all of our, homages to action movies and just have these two brothers be like, you get your fucking rope.
Yeah, I love that. And then it comes very handy.
Rope comes very handy.
Very handy.
And because they get a tip of where the Russian mafia is going to be.
Yeah.
So then they're like, oh, we'll just go kill them. And so then it does again where we see the end result. Mm-hmm. And then Smecker breaks it down, and then we actually see what happens. I think it's a stylistic choice, but I think it helps make Willem Dafoe's character better.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Because every time it did that, I kept on wanting it to stay with Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is me just because of all the damn classes I'm taking. But like I thought it was when every time it did that, it was like this competing protagonist, and I was like, wait, who's the protagonist? Like I thought it was trying to make Willem Dafoe as like the antagonist, and I guess the
That's what it
antagonist
tries
is
at the
Willem Dafoe.
That's what it tries at the beginning, but then he becomes the person that you're rooting for. You're like, yeah, brothers, go kill these people, but I also want Willem Dafoe to figure out what the fuck's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was when the movie felt like, because it's a first time screenwriter, it felt like it was like maybe a draft or two. Like I was trying to figure out how like many drafts he did before he got to this, because the thing is, like you guys talking about the main guy, the bad guy at the end, like it was kind of like you understand it because of Rocco's stuff, but you don't really understand it through. Wait, who was the one? Because like they had the beginning where they kind of made it personal because they were taking away the bar. Was it the Russians taking away the bar?
Yeah, it was the Russians.
And then
the reason why it becomes the Italian mob is because then at the end of that scene, where after the brothers have killed all the Russians, they get a knock at the door and they go, and Rocco is there dressed as a bellhop
Yeah.
or a server, and so they fuck with him, and then they realized there were 9 dudes here, and they made Rocco come here with a 6-shooter.
Okay. Yeah.
So then basically what they all, after a night of drinking, realize afterwards is that, yeah, the Italians were trying to set you up either to see if you could probably kill one or two of the Russians, but basically you were a martyr. Okay. You're basically being sent in to die. And so then that's where it sets off into Rocco basically being like, fuck the mafia, I want to kill all these people.
That was that was a nice thing to watch for me when Rocco has his breakdown. I was like, this is funny. Mm-hmm. He's just swearing constantly, just running all over the damn room. I was like, okay, yeah, more of this, please.
Yeah. And then also it also is cool that the way that the cops break down all the scenes and really point out how it does. I can understand what you're saying with it does feel first drafty because some things sound too it's exposition, too much exposition.
Yeah.
Where but I like that it goes into the whole why it would be 2 people shooting this one guy and this was the last person to die, and this is why it was 2 people shooting and not one dude with 2 guns because of how it was held and stuff. So I like that it goes into that, but it does feel a bit too much.
You sort of talk about it's not the main character's motivations always taking them through.
Well, it's always becomes Rocco pulling them through towards the end.
Yeah,
that's true.
And then,
kind of. I like it though, because after they killed the mob, they're like, I guess it was. We just want you to just leave the mob. I feel like that could have been. He's like, okay, I'm done with that. They'd be like, great. But he's like, no, let's fucking kill them all. And they're like, yeah, what we said we were
because then do. Because then after they figure that out, Rocco then, although first we should talk about one thing. Killing the cat.
There we go.
Yeah. Horrifying.
Yeah.
Also that whole thing. The whole thing with his girlfriend and that whole
it's still such a
shitty.
It's so shitty, but it's still such a good character moment for him.
For Rocco?
For Rocco, it's such a good character moment where it's just I remember when I first watched this movie, and I think me and my friends were thinking it was the funniest scene where it's just was it the one girlfriend? Because what happens is they're drunk or whatever, and then Rocco slams on the table, and somehow the gun goes off and kills his girlfriend's cat in the apartment. Mm-hmm. And then if you look in the background of the scenes after that, when they're in there, they just taped a little picture on the wall, but they didn't really clean up the blood, so you can still see where the splatter hit. They don't really do anything about it, and then his girlfriend and her friend are drunk druggies, and so they stumble home.
Women in this film.
Yeah. Basically. And so then she's just like, where's my fucking cat? And then he just, at this point, has said fuck it, because just before this he went to the restaurant and killed those people. Killed the people that were basically making fun of him and knew that he was going to die. And then he comes back and just freaks out of them. And my favorite shot has to be the POV where he just puts his hair back and he just points the gun directly at her face and just you fat fucking bitch. It's a good character moment. It's really shitty because when you really think about it, it's just you guys are fucking terrible people.
Yeah,
but it's awful. A great character moment for him. Just that he breaks down into nothing. And then you're like, okay, Rocco's a really desperate, terrible person.
Well, they need to sort of he becomes more prominent because when he dies, that's more for us.
Yeah, I think that was trying to be another motivation for the brothers, right? Mm-hmm. It's trying to push them. So that's why they're probably trying to make Rocco kind of sympathetic as this kind of man child that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just want to move the mic closer.
That's
good.
Yeah, in the Lakeview when he kills those people, that is fucking brutal.
funny.
And he's just like killing his old.
Yeah, he's
like the bartender.
He's unstable
especially.
for sure. Yeah, it was a weird choice. Like a thing with this movie. Like I found like it had parts that were like it's a weird thing. Like I can see why it's a cult classic because I find its flaws make it why people like it. But like if you're not into that kind of comedy or you're searching for something else, like then the flaws are too divisive and you don't like it. So that's why I feel like with this movie you either get into two camps and there's like no middle ground.
Yeah, that's true.
It goes hard into like action movie, then into comedy, and then into like very serious drama at certain points.
Yeah.
Because then after, so then that happens. Then Rocco's just like, I want to kill whoever I can. Then they go kill Lorenzo in the titty bar or in the titty club.
The boob thing was weird. Do you think the boob thing was weird?
Yeah,
the boob
of course
thing.
it was weird. It's one of those things that Rocky, you're just so fucked.
I was just like, is this happening? All
You're
right.
just so fucked.
Yeah, he's just such a fucked character.
You can't do that shit.
But then having Willem Dafoe, like trying to figure it out, and the anomaly is Rocco because he's just such a dipshit. The whole like, oh yeah, so this guy was killed properly, where it's like perfectly two guns, and then the two random dudes in the other two, like holding areas.
Yeah, it was
just
not
like
finesse at all.
No
It was
finesse
just
at all.
like-
It's just like we got a cowboy.
Yeah.
Also, I want to mention throughout these, some of my favorite bits have to be when Smecker is laying in bed with his like boyfriend or whatever, and he gets the call to go to the hotel where the Russians are all dead, and he slaps him in the face for trying to cuddle him. He's like, "What are you doing?" "I just wanted to cuddle," and then he calls his boyfriend a fag.
Yeah,
It's such a weird trait of a character. It's just like
this is what struck me as it, because I was like, when I saw it scene, I was like, well, okay, this is clearly because it's Troy Duffy is a writer, and like it's he just doesn't know how to write that. Like that's literally because in my head I was like, it's interesting because it goes into like the whole notion of toxic masculinity if you were to analyze it, but like in my head, like at that point I was like, no, see it as a B movie that has a lot of style, and like don't try to analyze this scene, because in my head what I wrote when I saw that scene is like, hey, person of color, and then I was like, oh, like okay, and like, oh, he gets a line, this is how it's gonna end up for him.
He's a token gay black
character. I was like, even his like reaction, I was like, oh goodness.
Yeah.
And then later when he's at the bar, when he's at the gay bar and he's drinking, and he calls the bartender a fucking fag again. Like it's such a weird character trait that I never fully grasped, because I just thought it's such a weird thing, because it's like
it is.
No, it's interesting. That's
It's
why I said
interesting.
that's why I think I want to see it in a different director's kind of. Because the thing is, taking his character, because like I think there's that show with like J-Lo. It has like a cop that has like all this like internal. He's basically kind of like Willem Dafoe, and like that one I could have reasoned because like he's so against like looking effeminate. That's this whole movie is like so against looking any kind of effeminate. It
It's so
literally
much
is just
so
like
that we will just not show any women.
it's just like it's like a lot of posturing and a lot of testosterone. Like even with like the rule of third thumb, like a part of me was like, is that like a comment of like. Because the way she was talking was like, oh, you're just being sensitive.
Yeah.
Like I got that vibe from it. And I was like, and again, I had to recommend watching Overnight, because like you get that like, no, this is just who this director is, and this is his like style of humor and his
super
brand.
weird.
But like, yeah, it's if you see it as a B movie, it's like you're able to like, yeah, this is the Boondock Saints.
Yeah. It's like I love how crazy the character of Specker gets. It's just that this one weird character trait that I cannot understand. Just because it's like
snaps.
No, when he snaps is probably one of the greatest things ever.
It gets like
but
Platoon.
just the fact that he, but just the fact that he,
It's Willem Dafoe, you know.
Yeah.
but it's just the fact that like, even when I watched it earlier, watched the movie again, it just came to that point. I was like, I don't know what purpose this serves. It's a great character moment, but it's just like, okay, so he's gay, but he hates,
homophobic.
but he's homophobic.
No, it's internalized. It's internalized homophobia. That's basically
yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It makes sense. Because
especially
like, even,
in that film, it's like not only like his context as like a character in Boston in the police force or the FBI, and working in the FBI and law enforcement stuff. Like not only that, but also like in the movie, that is one thing you just didn't expect to see at all.
No,
like, you didn't
entirely.
expect him to be
because every other cop is like,
you have to give
every other cop is
definitely props for that. Like I'm sure countless of like I guess like film bros or frat bros when they saw that scene they were like, what?
Did me
like what's happening? Yeah. So you gotta give props for just at least putting that in, because like even if it's a weird representation, it's like, you know what, it's representation. So like you gave him props
because every other
sprinkle it in.
Every other cop in the movie,
every
other cop in the movie is like Greenlee, where there's like, hey, you know, I'm from Boston, I'm a cop, and you know, fuck you. And it's like, and that's that. And then you have this one dude that comes in, he's just like listening to classical music, and he's just like walking around, and he's just poking fun at everybody. And just kind of like a weird mothery character to all these cops. And then eventually breaking down and just shitting on all of them. Because then eventually, let's see, where were we? Lorenzo dies, and then
the house.
Yeah, Rocco then says he has another guy that should die, and it's basically a hitman.
A fucking awesome scene.
He talks about a hitman that should die, a guy that's just a cold-blooded killer, and so then I feel like what Duffy did was he escalated the way that the crime scenes worked, because it went from like, oh, you know, just a couple dudes in an alleyway to, oh, okay, in a hotel room to, okay, in this you know,
it's kind of like a video
bar,
game in a lot of ways.
to then this lawn and this entire house, and then just showing up, and Smecker just slowly devolves into madness as he's trying to figure out this whole thing. And so then the boys break into this house, kill a bunch of dudes, then murder the guy that Rocco wanted to.
Yeah.
But then, previous to this scene, we get a glimpse of Billy Connolly's character.
That was another WTF. Like, if you're not expecting it, you're like, there's a cage.
El Duce.
Yeah.
Also Billy Connolly.
Yeah. Well, because he's a comedian.
Yeah. Like, what are you doing here?
Like, the fact that if you knew who he was, this is the thing, is when I first saw this movie, I didn't know who Billy Connolly was. And I was so surprised that afterwards learned that he is a comedian. He's a stand-up comedian. That's his thing. And then to then go back and see him in this movie where his character reveal is being in prison, chained up, having hundreds of guns pointed at him, and then he's in a cage, and then he looks up with that fucking death stare. You're like, this dude is deadly. And then you see behind the scenes or interviews with Billy Connolly, you're like, oh, you're just a fucking jokester.
Yeah.
You just love poking fun at everything. But so El Duce is this hired gun for the Italian mob. And they give this like creepy backstory of like that they've only used him 3 times in 25 years. And is this awesome montage of outside of the house where Smecker thinks that it was 6 guys shooting up these 3 boys. And then Greenlee gives the awesome thing where maybe it was one guy with 6 guns, which it was. It was one dude with 6 guns trying to shoot down 3 dudes. And of course, the most famous line in the movie probably, it was a firefight.
Great sequence.
All this shooting, I gotta give
that, and having him integrated into the action, like just
like the slow mo, the action in this movie, even though it's like B budget and everything, the slow mo just like squibs going off and blood and everything, and like that whole scene where it's just tons of dudes firing, just shit exploding in the background, and then Willem Dafoe's on the ground just shooting his gun in the air. It's really well done.
It is, and also the little when they go to when they're playing poker, that little bit,
yeah,
like, that is fucking crazy visceral of like a fight scene. Basically, you're like, holy shit,
Audio
this
listeners,
is crazy.
Audio listeners won't see this, but it's the scene where Willem Dafoe's describing that, and then these two guys went under the pool table, so then one of them had to get on their knees, and then he goes down with Rocco and does like the slow-mo, like one gun and then another gun, and they're doing it simultaneously, and you're like,
and I like how it builds to that point. You were talking about time earlier, but it's like how they were doing the crime scenes and stuff. It like builds to that climax for him where he's broken.
Yeah, and then he just freaks out because everything's fucked for him.
Yeah, that was it. Like when it get, like I said, when it gets all platoony and like it's just like him slow motion. Like I liked when you're able to, when they kind of like merge the two together. Like you see them in the same shot. Like I like how that, like they kind of see what he's seeing. Like the thing that's funny about that, it's a strong Willem Dafoe scene, and like it's all about him and what he's seeing because it's his breakdown and everything. Even though that, it was the slow motion, the shots like that. Sometimes I felt like it was a bit particularly when Ducey came out, it got like crazy parody. But like, I guess after everything you saw, I guess it worked up to that parody that you're able to like this, you accept it more.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the sort of, I don't know, this really the world is weird.
Yeah,
no one knows what is with that. Like two guys can just sort of happen to be really good at murdering people.
Yeah,
because God. And so like this guy is also that way, and also the guy that killed before who just like kept on coming at him. Like you're like, this guy will just not die.
I kept on like with the time stuff for some reason. Like I had this thought, like if it were getting made today or not. But like I kept on thinking like it would make it really like its format made it a really interesting like web series just because like everything seems to be divided of like Willem Dafoe comes to the crime scene, we see the crime scene. Like kind of like it's like broken into those kind of parts. So I thought it was like interesting in that way.
Well, what it reminds me of really when I thought about it later was Death Note, where it's sort of part of Death Note where it's like the kid has the book and he's killing these people, and then there's the one person that's trying to find him. As that sort of dynamic going back
like
and
the
forth.
cat and mouse.
Yeah, cat mouse, and in Death Note that's the entire like solid plot is the whole cat and mouse between Light and I forgot the other character's name, but is that whole relationship. And so if this was like a miniseries or a TV show, it'd definitely that'd be the entire thing, is like this cat and mouse sort of game back and forth. Where you actually get to see both sides instead of like crime shows in the past couple of years where it's been like you follow the hero's journey the entire time and the villain's story is very hidden. But at the same time, this story, both of them are heroes in some way or another. It's however you view it, if they are actually heroes or not. But then basically what happens is in that scene, Rocco gets his finger shot off, and that's how Willem Dafoe, that's how Smecker finds them, is because he finds the finger in the bushes, which is very much so he hasn't been able to catch these guys at all. Okay, well, now he can finally find them.
That's interesting. It seemed maybe an interesting writing device. It's like, I mean, that's a coincidence. Maybe he was always going to find it, but he has this huge. He breaks down before he finds the finger.
Fucking find
he finds the finger, and he could be
spray
like
ammonia on the blood, so they can't trace it.
I'm embarrassed, but I found a finger.
No, if you're
and
doing...
like that's what like a cop would do.
He also keeps
it breaking the character and having him just be like, I'm not going to tell anybody about this.
Exactly.
No, like
that's the whole sort of point. It's like we need to break him so that he can't. Like if you broke it out into beats and you're like, in the end, they're all gonna be sort of on the same side.
Well,
like,
because
how the fuck do we get there? It's like, well, he's gonna find them, but
because that's the thing
them.
is, he breaks down, and that leads to him. He realizes that they're too good for him, and he breaks down. He's like, if I can't find these guys, like, are they actually doing something that I approve of?
It's a 3-act. For Willem Dafoe. His storyline is easier and to connect with and like adapt to and understand it more, because It's like a 3-act structure for him. Like when you're talking about breaking him down, like that technically is like the crisis. Like that's like the all is lost. Like he can't do it anymore. But then when he finds that finger, that's like the turning point until Act 3 of like, oh, this is the clue that will jettison to like the next scene.
Yeah.
Because that changes his motivation all of a sudden. Like before he was constantly trying to hunt these people down. Now he has his finger, and now he's seeing them. It's the beginning of his different view of the Saints.
Yeah.
But with the Saints, if you look at them as characters, they're the same, I think, throughout the entire thing. Is there a change, or they're just the same?
I don't think there's it. Well, confidence, basically.
Confidence, yeah.
It's a very small change, because it's basically like, oh, we're going to do this thing, and it's kind of a slow rise, and then there's like a little bit of hiccups, where it's like, we're doing this thing, oh, Rocco dies, and then it just fades off. But no, with him finding the finger and then going to the church, and talking to the priest who's being held hostage by Rocco because Rocco wants to kill Smecker, but the brothers told him not to because the brothers said, no, he's a good guy, don't touch him. Like, he's actually a good guy. And then that whole exchange inside the confessional booths where Smecker's drunk and then is like, no, yeah, I believe that these guys are actually doing good, and I'm going to support them because what they're doing is right, even though I don't believe in Jesus. I don't believe in God and shit, but yeah, vigilante justice, woo. Because he's basically saying, like, you know, they're doing what I can't, and I support that. Yeah. Because if I could, I would.
I feel like that must always be a little sort of sick thing in the back of, like, anybody in law enforcement.
Yeah.
It must be like, I gotta do all these rules, and I believe in these rules. However, wouldn't it be so much nicer if I could just, arrest that person for no reason or something like that?
And so then he teams up with the guys, which is very quick. This part of the movie, I feel, has a very fast, quick turnaround to then get to the main part of this section of the movie, which is Rocco dying, because it's so fast. It's like, okay, so they're teamed up with him now. Okay, so they're gonna go do this thing. They then go to. There's a quick dialogue between Iacovetta and his henchmen about how El Duce is now on the loose and looking for revenge on them. It's like 3 lines dialogue, and it's just super fast. There's no visual thing. It's just like one of the henchmen is just like, El Duce is wanting payback or something like that.
Well,
and then it's like
to kill them specifically, and he hasn't done that yet.
Yeah, and so then, and then really quickly in like, I think it's even less than 30 seconds, they're like, yeah, no, so we're gonna go to Iacovetta's, like base and surprise them. Oh wait, it's a trap. Oh no. Okay, now they're captured and being tortured. It's like very quick like that. That's the one part of the movie that I actually have a lot of trouble with whenever I watch it, because I'm just like, this has no build up. It's just all of a sudden like, oh yeah, we're gonna go. The boys are gonna go do this thing, and then Smecker talks to the blind ex-underboss dude in the bathroom, and then he's like, yeah, no, this thing, and Smecker just goes, oh shit, and then it's like, oh yeah, it was a trap, and now they have the 3 guys and they're torturing them. Oh, and then Rocco's dead.
I was just thinking about it. I think it's a stupid thing to think about, but I think it's the same house that's in A History of Violence.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I watched that film.
I believe it's East a ways, but sorry.
I met, yeah, I'd have to watch it again to tell. It's probably a house that's been used for tons of things.
Yeah.
Is it the same house where that late reveal about El Duce?
What?
Didn't they do a reveal for El Duce where like they're praying? Or is this not in the same house?
I mean, the house where the mob boss is.
That's this. I don't know if that room and the house are the same set.
Oh, okay.
But it's supposed to be the same place.
Okay.
But it's the house that then, so Rocco gets killed. The boys are handcuffed to chairs. They can't get out. And then Willem Dafoe's character shows up dressed in drag, goes and seduces one of the henchmen into the bathroom, kicks him repeatedly in the balls, and then shoots him in the head.
You need to applaud Willem Dafoe for like putting his all into that
He
character.
did not look. He's
Everything.
He pulled it off. Yeah, yeah.
Like you have to applaud him. I mean, like he
There's one
committed to this role. Like he
Yeah.
could have like half-assed it,
No, exactly.
but he committed.
That's why I really think it's probably one of his best roles, because it's just like it's fully committing.
I know, it's interesting. It would be interesting to hear that conversation between the director and Willem about that. Like, how
Yeah.
far are we going?
Full
All the
drag.
way.
You see him in underwear. You see his underwear in one shot.
Yeah, because he. Yeah.
It's hot.
There's one shot. It's the shot where he's coming in the door. I remember one of the first times I watched it. I was just like,
It's interesting because
he's a good looking. He's a good looking human. Like, he can pull it off.
Yeah.
Like, he has such an interesting face. He has such a
does.
very interesting
It does.
face.
It's not like this. It's not the most masculine face, but I don't know what it
in
is.
certain ways, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he's the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I know, because of his face and ability.
So then Smecker's going through the house killing whoever he can find, and then he gets knocked out by Alduce, who shows up. And at this point, the brothers, one of them got the handcuffs out from under the chair, and the other one then broke the other one's wrist by kicking it against the chair so that he could get his hand out of the cuffs. Yes. They kill a couple dudes, and then they start praying for Rocco. El Duce walks in. Oh, shit. He knows the same prayer that they said earlier was a family prayer?
What?
I wonder how this is a thing. Oh, and then they escape, and then it's like, 3 months later.
Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, why? I guess the biggest problem upon reflection is why the fuck would your dad try to kill you?
Well, he didn't know who they
He
were.
didn't know that they're
That's the I
his
guess-
kids.
Oh,
yeah.
that was his. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So he
I'm
was just
assuming
like,
he's been
those are
gone for a
random
long
dudes.
time, right?
No,
And he hasn't seen
well,
his children. I'm
he
assuming
wa-
that's it, right?
yeah.
So when he heard them saying the prayer, he's like, "Oh shit!"
He's like-
"I almost killed my son."
yeah.
Which is, I guess, whatever. Yeah.
Well, because they never talk about their father, and then the second movie is all about their father, and it basically does The Godfather Part 2 is the entire movie, or like a main huge chunk of the plot of the Boondock Saints 2, All Saints Day, is basically that plot of like seeing where the old man came from and why he's a killer and why he does this. But yeah, in this movie, it's just like, yeah, I'm a really bad dude. Blah. Oh, yeah, no, I'm your father. And you don't actually know that there's his father until later in the movie, where it's like wrapping up and they're sitting with him, and then one of them says, "Da," and you're like, "What?"
In the first one?
And yeah, in the very end of the first one.
I can't remember this, because sometimes I was like watching it and I was like kind of tuning out. But like, did they ever mention like, our father is long gone? Like, was there any line like that?
Nope.
No.
The only
like,
thing they mention of their parents is their mom. That's it.
Because like when that scene happened and they're praying and it stops, like it took me a little while to be like, wait, what?
The only thing that kind of works is the fact that when they're doing the spiel about him, and saying like, yeah, he's been used 3 times in 25 years, blah blah. He's been locked up in jail for 30 to 20 years, and then after that and that scene, then it cuts to the boys, and you're like, they're about that age too.
Yeah.
So it's given that he probably had them literally before he went to jail.
Oh yeah.
In the second movie, they don't really talk about that part of the lives of them. It doesn't really explain their mother or anything. It just is there. So then after that whole thing, it goes 3 months later. Yakovetta's on trial for a bunch of shit. And then Smecker and the cops help the boys get into the courthouse, and they execute Yakovetta while giving a giant spiel to the entire world saying, if you commit any crime, we'll know and we'll come and kill you. And then they disappear.
Yeah.
Like Batman.
And then it ends.
And then the actually kind of interesting credits of news interviews with supposedly random people talking about the Saints and asking, like, do you think that they're good or do you think that they're evil? And it's completely down the middle.
I actually like that. That's how, like, if there was such, like, if there was like a spring of like vigilante justice or something, that is basically what everyone's reaction would be.
Yeah.
Like there'd be some people who are just like, fucking kill all criminals, and there'd be other people being like, no, we have a fucking system that is broken, and this is obvious, but it's like, we have a system, we have fucking law. Follow that.
It's like, it's a very serious and like actual social commentary moment, and like a not so serious film.
Yeah.
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 I like it. It's got lots of style and panache.
Yeah.
That
Like the whole, well, like the whole prayer thing is
it's
is
really
that
weird.
whole
yeah,
style
sexy
and-
Christianity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sean.
Well, it's it's the I think it's obviously him calling to, you know, like Paul. It's like they have to have a saying. They have to have their thing that they always do, and it's like, you know, also calling to like Pulp Fiction and reading, you know, Ezekiel and that, and it's like. I remember when this was like one of me and my friend's favorite movies, and this like that prayer we had memorized just because it was so cool to say. It's like, because it just flows super well, and I remember actually looking it up, and I can't remember if it's like based off anything, but
just some stuff that flows well.
yeah. Nome Pace Fieri, Spiritu Sancte.
Bang.
It's cool. It's cool. That's what it is. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to be cool.
And what you're struggling with is the fact that cool has since changed.
Cool has very much since changed.
No, I think for me, like I said earlier, like I think this movie is like divisive, where like you either look at its flaws and think they're like brilliant,
Yeah.
or you look at its flaws and you think like, what that. And I think I'm on the camp where it's more like I think like, cause like for me, I'm all about like story, and like there's just too many things that are pulling or competing with each other in it. And like I see the visuals and I'm like, oh, this is what they're going for, and then like they really pop. But there's just like this. It's just there's weird character moments. There's weird, like, I don't know what it's trying to say. Like I don't know. It's like sometimes it's doing the whole thing at the end with like the message of like vigilante justice, but like it doesn't really feel like earned that way, because like even in regards to vigilante justice, Rocco had the stronger reason for vigilante justice in comparison to the Saints, which initially they would have had the stronger one, but the issue with the pub being like closed down was like already done. And it was weird because Duffy actually owned a pub, or like was part of some pub. So part of me like was like, is this like based on his real life? Because like this whole movie was based on the fact that like he went to his hotel and he saw like some drug dealer like rob a dead body, and so it was like he wanted to like get off of that. And like you can tell there's like moments where like he, like, I guess with the ending, with the commentary, like that was like probably very personal for him, like maybe. But there's just too much stuff where it's just like his doucheness comes across, and I'm just like it's not for me.
Yeah.
Like visually, like I said, when no one sets out to make a bad film, and like with this, you can see like there's a lot of craft, and like that toilet scene, I'm like, that toilet scene is like memorable. Like the cat scene is memorable just because it catches you off guard.
That's super
Visually,
shocking.
Yeah.
Visually, this movie is done very, very well.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subversion too. Like when they turn themselves in, interesting.
Yeah.
Like with like the fact that they're like not so serious about it, they kind of like, after they murder a bunch of people, they kind of play coy and like, whoa, like they're actually kids.
Yeah.
Like it was like an interesting touch, but like it never full on goes with it or chooses what to be. And like for me, it's just like, I see it as a good B film that you drink with your friends. But like for me, and the thing is though, I love B movie films, but I think I have things that I love more than this.
Yeah.
That's why it's lower. Like I see what it is, but I'm not also the target audience too. Plus, because like the only person of color is like one dude. It's like a stereotype.
Those are all the problems. I gotta say, there's an interesting, like, I don't know if it's a nostalgia, but maybe for me, it's sort of like, these types of films. I had a bunch in my head before, but I can't even really remember.
Like,
but that's sort of. Yeah, anyways, this film, sort of like a Run Lola Run for me, because I hadn't actually seen that until I got to university. Sort of like shocking, and the form is not what you've seen before, but strong in itself. Like the form is shaken, but works.
It's a film made by a fan of film.
Yeah.
Which this is a good example of it, but a better example of it is like Edgar Wright.
Yes.
Or like Memento blew my fucking mind.
Even like,
of course it did.
Yeah. It's like you can tell that there are people there are directors now that are out there that are fans of film and they do it perfectly. This film is like what you and your friends would
make, right? I got that vibe. Like I felt like it's like with the slow motion shootout, the way it was posed. Like I felt like this is some guy. I was like, this looks awesome. Yeah. Shoot it! Oh my god! Yeah. Like that's what I felt. And like you like Will Dafoe, you platoon, just drop and just go like razors.
Remember that movie you were in?
Yeah, like go there. It felt like a lot of homage, and that's why I was talking about the time structure, because I felt like, did you do this because Quentin Tarantino did this before and you really loved it and you love how like to go back and forth, or was this more of like it was more of like a style choice, like, or was it actually serve the plot? That's why I thought, I thought that it competed Willem Dafoe against the Saints.
That's true. I mean, it does have the most sort of interesting segments of the film, but also he's so fucking good. He was going to steal the show anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Like, I appreciate, like, honestly, at the end of the day with this movie, it gave Willem Dafoe, like, a chance to shine, and I can't be mad at that.
No.
Yeah.
Wouldn't shine like that again until...
What? Yeah, it's
Life
true.
Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
I haven't watched it yet.
Man, he also steals that show.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
No, this film, definitely why I picked it is because it's... Whenever I go back to it, it's just like, this is just a fun movie. It's not perfect, but it's just fun. And that's why. It's just a fun movie that's just like, yeah, it's basically just like a filmmaker was like, hey, I just want to make the movie I want to make.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make people think. I just want to have a joyride, basically.
The thing is, though...
And just have, like, weird comedy and, like, this hidden lore shit. And it's like, yeah.
I'm really glad that they didn't really dive farther into that.
Like,
it's weird that it's there at all, but
like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think what his thought process was, because like if you honestly watch it overnight, you get his personality really clear. It's really intense. He's really like I'm in charge. Like you'll only be informed. You won't make any more decisions. I will make decisions. You will just be informed. Like he would say something like that.
It was probably him trying to get that level of like. I am the auteur.
Yeah.
I'm the filmmaker.
Yeah.
My decision, and probably also he had, when there was money there, he had a lot of yes men.
Yeah, because it went from 16 million to 6 million budget.
Yeah, and then once all that was dropped, it's like no, and so first time filmmaker dropped into
Like I'm wondering if he got any notes,
deep end.
And that's what made him angry. Like I'm curious to see what the riff was, because I could see notes being made on the first draft. But like I felt like he just wanted to have his own vision, which is fine. Like this really is this is a Troy Duffy film. Like it feels very much him. Yeah. And that's why I'm curious to see what other films he does, to see if it's like that's just his voice or if it's like
what films has he done?
It's just Boondock.
Because I don't like the sequel, but I don't like it because they're like, we'll take the exact same thing and do that again.
What I don't like, okay, very quick because we should be wrapping up. This is why I don't like about the sequel. They replaced Rocco with a very good comedian who's been in other movies. He's a great actor.
But he's the exact same.
No, but instead of
thought,
he's the same thought, but they just make a giant Mexican stereotype.
Yeah, that's true
as the
too.
comedic relief. So it's basically Jar Jar, but as a Mexican.
Yeah.
It is funny at points.
See, that doesn't surprise me.
He's funny at points.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. He's funny at points, and there's one really actually like nice moment where it's him and his uncle. But then because the basic plot of the second movie is that this dude shows up and he's killing priests in the same way the Saints were killing bad guys, and they think, is this the Saints turning against what they believe and whatever? So then this new FBI agent who's replacing Smucker comes in to try to find the Saints, because since Smucker found the Saints, she must be able to. The cops already know that it's not the Saints, or don't necessarily know it's the Saints. The Saints get wind of this. They show up back in Boston. They get this Mexican dude to help them, and they're trying to find out who this killer is. Turns out the killer is just this apprentice to this really old dude that no one knows about.
Who's it played by? I remember getting
Peter Fonda.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck?
And then while all this is going on, Billy Connolly's character, who's the Saint's father, it's doing a Godfather Part 2 sort of thing where we see his backstory, where he was a upholsterist and the mob came in and killed people that he knew. So then he basically became a gun runner and he just became an assassin. And so then he basically developed his character of just killing and killing and killing and killing, to the point where he basically became who he was. But he was turned on by his best friend, who is then Peter Fonda, and Peter Fonda has found a new gunner basically to try to kill him and his sons. And then in the very, very end, it's basically the three of them in a giant gunfight with a giant mob for some reason, and Peter Fonda's just there, and then Billy Connolly dies, and then there's and then it's just the boys and their friend, and they're still the Saints out there somewhere.
Oh yeah, like
and then the biggest tease of all, the biggest fucking tease of that movie is the very, very, very end, where the new FBI agent the entire time knew who the Saints were, and that's because it's later revealed at the very end that Smucker taught her and told her everything. Or Smucker told her everything, so she actually knew who they were the entire time and was in communication with them the entire time. And because then she helps them find this guy, finds Peter Fonda, she then has to basically do what Smucker did, which is just get out and disappear. So then it turns out the lore behind this whole thing is that Willem Dafoe has disappeared and is working with the Vatican to create this behind the scenes organization that's basically the Saints of vigilante justice. And so then she goes on a boat with this priest, and then opens the back door to the back of the boat, and then he's there sitting fishing, and he basically says, I want you to join me, and we're making this militia, basically. And then that's the end of the movie.
See, like
that's the entire. That's it.
Like, so there could be another one.
There could be another one.
Interesting if it's just that.
It's super
Sort
weird.
of like
like
a sexy Da Vinci Code.
like for me, I just can't it's just like it's too WTF. Like it's not, and I was like, it's like for the sake of WTF, and like I don't know.
That whole last scene is just for you to go, Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
What is this?
All
What
right,
the fuck? And then it just ends, and you're like, what the fuck just happened?
At least it's not Willem Dafoe.
Yeah. But yeah, second's not that great. You should still. I would still recommend going and seeing, obviously, the Boondock Saints, first one, just so that you know of it. You either will have a fun time or you'll be confused the entire time as to why this is a thing. But I think there are great moments in this film, and it's a great, like, visually a great movie. It has fun, interesting, weird characters, and I think it's a good exploration into indie filmmaking and what you can do when you kind of have control and just do what you really want. So yeah, it's up there with some of my favorite films, and because it's just always a fun time to watch. So you should go check it out. And we should wrap up right now. But yeah, so thank you for listening to the Unknown Era podcast. And if you have seen Boondock Saints, let us know in the comments. wherever you're listening to this, or tweet at us or go on our Facebook page and let us know, because we'd love to hear your opinion. And yeah, you can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, on YouTube, on SoundCloud. I just recently added Stitcher. That's another podcasting service. So you can listen to it on there. You can get the podcast a week early. So if you're listening to this right now, the day that's upload or when you're listening to it, the next one's already up on our Patreon. It's already there. You can just go listen to it right now. And when you go and become a patron, you're helping support us. Ooh. You're helping support us and stuff that we get to make and make it better. We get to make stuff together. So that should be your incentive.
We can bring back real visuals.
Yeah. That can be your incentive. But then you get, stuff a week early. And if you, help support us a bit more, you're going to get what we're going to go into next, which is the post-podcast talk show, Friendly Banter, where we just kind of talk about whatever we want.
What could we ever talk about?
So, yeah, thank you for listening. And catch you next time. Oh, wait, what we should talk... Roddy's doing next week.
What's next?
Me. The next episode. You're doing this. What are you doing?
I chose a classic John Woo film called Hard Boiled, which has Chow Yun Fat, and he's amazing because he's Chow Yun Fat.
Hard Boiled.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It has subtitles.
Don't think I've ever seen it.
But yeah. I see what you're doing.
A Hard Boiled.
We won't be in the same clothes next week if you're watching this on YouTube.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Regular rotation.
So, Hard Boiled next week.
Yeah, John Woo.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.